Hi there. In this video, I will be talking about string object types in Python. Now let's head over to the Python shell and start applying some Python codes. To define a string variable, simply use the codes. So let's define a t variable. It is going to be a string variable, and let's type text with capital T and allocate it into, assign it into variable capital T. Let's print T variable, and you can see we have the text flashed up. And let's now use the other type of quotation, and let's assign the text string with a lower initials into and assign into the lower variable t, and let's print it. So you have text flashed here. Now let's look at the length of a string variable. So we have already defined the string variable of capital T, and let's print the length of T onto the PowerShell. To do that, you need to use the method of len on the variable of T, capital T. Here you have 4 as the length of string variable capital T. So let's look at if it is correct. So capital T, E, X, T, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, we have the length of 4 for the variable of capital T. Now let's learn how to look at the first character of this variable of capital T. To do that, we need to print index of 0 using capital T. So it returns the capital T. Bear in mind that the indexing in Python is start with 0. So here the 0 shows the first character of capital T variable, string variable. So it is the capital T. So moving on, let's learn how to see the last variable of T, the last character of T. So to do that, we need to print T, and to demonstrate the last variable, you use -1. So what -1 here is doing, actually it is looking at the last variable of T variable. So it is the lower T. Now let's look at the second to last item from the end, the second to last character of T variable. To do that, you simply print T, you use -2. So it is the X. So here what Python does, it looks at the last second variable. So this is the last variable, the first last variable, and this is the second last variable. So it is the character of x or letter of x. We can use some arbitrary expression in the square brackets, and to do that, let's start with once again looking at the length of t. So the length of t is equal to 4, and let's look at what happens when we subtract 1 from the value of length of t. So it is 3. So now try to use this argument as a value inside the brackets. So we will see what happens in that circumstances. So use t and create your capital, create your brackets. So inside the brackets, just use len t minus 1. So we know from the previous code that len t minus 1 was equal to 3, but now we use that argument inside the parentheses. So it returns t because we know that length of t is 4, and when you subtract 1 from 4, you end up with 3. So here in the parentheses, it is something like you are typing 3, and what is the third value as what is the third index value of t? So it is 1 0 1 2 3. So the third index value in Python is lower t, and bear in mind that indexing in Python starts from 0. Now let's move on. Slicing. So let's once again remind ourselves what was the variable t. So it is the string of text. So let's look at what are the values between the first indexing and third indexing. So it is the x. So as you remember, the 0 index was capital T, and the first index is lower x, and the second index is represent lower x, and the 0 1 2 3, the third index is lower t. So when you type in the brackets of t variable 1 colon 3, it takes a because it is the first index in Python, and it takes x, and then it takes e, and then it takes x in the second index, but it does not take the third index. So it shows the first index and the second index, but it does not show the third index. So once you print capital T inside brackets, you have 1 colon 3, and when you push the enter button, you will see E and X. And this is how you use slicing in Python. Now let's try what happens if we use the index number 1 and we do not type anything after that, and you can see you end up with ext because in the right hand side of the column you have not typed any specific number. So what Python does in this circumstance, it will take everything after together with index 1, it takes everything after index 1. So you have x and t after index 1. But as you remember from the previous code, it first starts with taking the value at index 1, and it was a. Now let's try to get everything starting from capital T, and in that circumstance we should print T. We would like to start with the first value. So since 0 represents the first index in Python, to see the first value you need to type the number of 0, and it will take here the capital T from the variable string variable capital T. And when you type 0 and type, let's say, 3, it will take everything starting from capital T, and this is represented by 0 and 0 for capital T, and 1 for lower e, and 2 for lower x. And since you type 3 on the right hand side of column, it has not taken the value of indexed 3. That's why you have capital T, E, and X in return. Now let's look at what happens if we do not type anything in the left hand side of the semicolon, but still we type 3 on the right hand side of the semicolon. So it returns text because in the left hand side you did not provide anything, but in the right hand side you say that stop at the index 3. So since the index 3 was let's recall ourselves, 0 for capital T, 1 lower e, 2 lower x, and lower t for the index of 3. So since Python does not take the right hand side of what you have on the right hand side of the semicolon, it returns text, only the text. And let's say that you would like to return the whole string variable of capital T, and in that sense, in that circumstances, what you need to do, you simply do not type anything on the right hand side and left hand side of the column, and voila, you have the entire variable of string variable of text. And let me talk a little bit about concatenation in strings for Python. To do that, you simply type, let's say, you would like to concatenate something like to read and you would like to see a concatenated version of your t. To do that, you just use the plus operator and type your string you would like to see uh, on the following of your text variable capital T, and you have now text to read as Python returned that value. Now you can use the multiplication operation on the strings. Let's multiply the string variable capital T with a numeric variable 3 using multiplication operation. And now what you have, three of text string. So it just multiply the text with itself in 3 times. And one thing to remember for strings type in Python is that they are immutable, meaning that you cannot add a variable into already created string variable. Let's try to assign the 0 index of text variable, so it was the capital T, as you recall, to, let's say, string or character of M. And as you can see, you have seen an type error, and it says string object does not support item assignment. So this was an example of immutable objects cannot be changed. But using expressions, we can make new objects, such as, let's say, once again, let's remind ourselves what was the capital T variable. So it is the string of text. And let's say you would like to reassign something like a string of M plus, let's say, T, and starting from the index 1, take everything. And now what you have for T is maxed instead of text. So what you have done, you separately created an argument and assigned into capital T. So what immutability means is that if an object is immutable, it remains constant throughout your program until you you did not do something like this, right? And let's move on, looking at the lists, and let's say that you create a new variable, capital L, and allocate, let's say, the list typecasted version of T variable. Let's print what we have in L. So what you have done here, you have typecasted a T string variable into a list variable, and Python has translated that maxed string into a list by dividing the string of maxed into its spells character. So MEXT in a list version. You can see it here now. And since you have an capital L variable type list, you can change the element of that list. So let's say you would like to change the index value, a second index value of it, so 0, 1, 2. So now you are going to change the x variable since it is indexed at 2, and let's type instead of x, you would like to see, let's say, z. Let's print L. Now, as the list variable, you have MEZT. Lastly, I will be talking about a join method. So let's see what happens if we create a space and join it to our L variable. And as you can see, you have created a new text by using join, and you can also allocate that into something like let's say L2, and using join L, let's print L2, and you have masked. So this was something can be done if you would like to change a character in your string variable. So you can simply just first typecast your string variable into a list variable, and then, since lists are not immutable, meaning that you can change an element in a list variable, and after that you just create the same string variable just using join method. Let's look at how you can typecast a numeric variable into a string variable. Let's create a variable, a numeric variable, which is siblings, and assign it into 3. Let's print it. You have 3. Let's now try to create a variable called info, and you would like to see it in string type, and you type, you have plus siblings and exclamation mark. And as you can see, you are not able to do that. You have seen a type error, and it says can only concatenate string, not int, to string. So it says that you cannot concatenate a numeric variable with a string variable, because you have string argument here, and you have an explanation string argument here. You cannot simply concatenate a numeric variable, and this is the siblings variable in our case, with the string arguments. So what you need to do is you have to typecast. Let's create another variable, info2 variable, and do the type the same arguments here. And this time you use str and typecast siblings variable, and once again you type your exclamation mark. Now you have not seen an error, and let's print info2 variable, and you have three an explanation. So it have successfully typecast siblings numeric into string type, and now we have assigned this literal into info2 variable. I hope this lesson helps you, and I would like to see you in another video. Until that time, please like this video and subscribe to my channel and continue coding. Thanks a lot, and I will see you in another video. Bye.